everybody, welcome back. It has been a few days. It is August 1st already, 2018, 10:42 p.m. Alright, what you were looking at right now is actually a good thing for the time being. In the next 48 hours, we are not expecting any tropical cyclones to form in the Atlantic Ocean. But what I do want you to pay attention to are these groups of storms that are making their way from the west coast of Africa towards the Leeward Islands, and that is the beginning signs of the August peak to about October peak hurricane season for the Atlantic Ocean. So things are changing. We still have our massive dip in the jet stream here that is causing just a very rare situation for the eastern states, and we're going to get into that too. But first I want to talk about something that does not happen too often. In fact, the last time we saw what could possibly happen here was in 1992. Now we're talking about sorry, Canadian accent just slipped out there for some reason. We are talking about the possibility of a Hurricane Hector, actually, which is already a tropical storm, going straight dead on towards Hawaii. And yes, these charts show that, and that is not the only thing. So we're going to watch this real quick on Tropical Tidbits. This is covered by basically every single model has Hector as a tropical storm right now, and every single model has Hector heading right at Hawaii. Now, Hawaii does get tropical cyclones. They get tropical storms more than anything, because by the time these storms get out there, usually by then they weaken. This one actually strengthens. And just let me get you an idea of what we're going to see here, or possibly see within the next 5 to 6 days. You could see Hector here. Instead of making its normal movement that we see these storms go up towards the Baja region of Mexico and then fizzle out in this cooler water here, we are seeing Hector take a low shot. And the reason for that is the exact same reason that we deal with hurricanes in the Atlantic Ocean, with the Bermuda Atlantic pressure in the Atlantic Ocean. That's what keeps our storms low and down on, let's see here, I'll show you here. This is the Atlantic Ocean. Our hurricanes from the west coast of Africa come down and they follow a warm water belt that goes through the Leeward Islands, and then we make it to Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Cuba, so on and so forth. And that's because of a big pressure bubble in the Atlantic Ocean that keeps it pinned down. And then once it reaches the end of that pressure bubble where the continents start, then it is determined by the jet stream where that storm goes. So right now, had we had a hurricane that was coming from the west coast of Africa, it would come down towards the Leeward Islands and then immediately follow this path that we are seeing here and get pinched in by the jet stream wall, which is right here where you see all this moisture, and then the high pressure in the Bermuda Atlantic. So let's count our blessings right now that there is no hurricane in the Atlantic Ocean, because that thing would go straight up the East Coast, like I said in a previous video, basically touching every state on its way up. So once again, we are here to talk about Hawaii though. So as you can see here, Hector makes it to the lowest pressure I see before the end of this frame is about 969. Now, if you guys remember, we talked about the pressures and how they relate to the wind. Now, 969 would be in a Category 2 range, it looks like, but that changes. So I changed the map here. You could see Hawaii right here. I have the date set for August 3rd, which actually I shouldn't. I should set it for the 1st maybe, and we'll see how this takes place. So what you saw before in this first one is Hector makes it to the end of the frame here and now is out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And now we're going to see it enter the frame right about here. And watch this. This is just not a very common situation. Hector is dropping pressure, 965, then jumps to 975, fluctuates in the lower 70s, drops to the 960s again, then drops to the 950s just as it's making its way towards the southeastern part of the island. And what else do we have in the southeastern part of this island here? That's right, Kilauea Volcano, which is currently erupting on a daily basis. It's almost old news now. People are almost not paying attention to it because they're just being overwhelmed with the fact that this volcano is going off every single day, multiple times a day in some cases, and it doesn't look like it'll stop anytime soon. There are estimates that a couple years it will take before this volcano actually calms itself back down to where people can actually go back to that area. But once again, let's stay on topic here, try to get a video under 20 minutes. As Hector makes its way towards Hawaii, you could see in this version it just clips that southern tip of the island. But don't get me wrong, guys, this is a very big storm. Hawaii is a very small island, so this thing will have effects on Hawaii. Hawaii gets affected by tropical storms alone, let alone hurricanes. Now, 961, like I said, is in that range of about Category 3 storm. Now, the last time we had a major hurricane in Hawaii, actually I pulled this up on a chart. Let's see here. The last time Hawaii has been directly hit by a hurricane, it's been only 3 times since 1950, and 147 tropical cyclones over the same period. So you know they get the storms, but they're a bit weaker before they get there. The last time a major hurricane hit Hawaii was Category 4 Iniki in 1992. Before that, the last major storm hit the island was Hurricane Iwa in 1982. So you could see the gap in years and how rare it is that major hurricanes make it to Hawaii. But like I said, these charts are showing a major hurricane heading right at Hawaii. And the reason for that, like I said, is the same reason that we get the direction, whichever it chooses to go, the Atlantic Ocean's over here, is the pressure. Now I want you to notice there's a very big high pressure in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And these rings outstanding outside the letter H here are part of that pressure. So what these lines are basically, think of them as force fields, basically keeping things away. High pressures keep away low pressures. So any low pressure that is moving towards a high pressure will then begin to follow the outside of it until it is released, or until that high pressure moves out of the way and allows these to move in a north direction. Naturally, these storms in the northern hemisphere, they want to move north if there's nothing stopping them. Now again, we have our jet stream that stops them, and we have the high pressure constantly in the Atlantic Ocean, and we have a high pressure constantly in the Pacific Ocean. Now this is a very far view, so we are looking at 2 different areas of the world here. We're mostly looking at the Pacific Ocean, but let's play it through. So we have Hector, which is down in this area. We're at July 30th, so we backtracked. But you see Hector beginning to form. It is a tropical storm right now. And look, you can see the high pressure is reaching down really low. It's actually parallel. The line is right on Hawaii. So if this were to stay the way it is, this hurricane is going to want to go north, and it would go right into Hawaii. So, and that's what it looks like it does. You could see the high pressure here fluctuating a little bit, but we constantly have this force field right here, which is not allowing these storms to come up in this direction where they usually go. And that is why Hector is projected not only to be a hurricane by the time it gets to Hawaii, but a pretty significant one at that. And if you notice, as the high pressures change, the movements of the storms change. Now we have a second storm right behind it, which would be named, I have it written down here, if it does get named, Lena, I believe it is. 2 L's with E-A-N-A after that. So that is the next storm after Hector, and then after that is Storm John, a little off from those types of names, actually. Storm John seems like it would be an Atlantic hurricane season name. But here we go. So we have a 960, 957 is the lowest pressure I see before this thing makes it to Hawaii by August 8th, which is 1 week from today. So this is definitely semi-accurate information. And like I said, most, if not all, these models have this happening, including these 3 hurricanes popping up back to back to back in the Pacific Ocean. Now that's not all we're going to talk about here. So this thing goes underneath the main island in Hawaii and then rides up every single island on its way out, even dropping in pressure again as it rides the outside of the high pressure. This is a perfect example of how hurricanes are steered. They do not pick and choose where they want to go. They are forced to where they end up by high pressures and atmospheric conditions. Now check this out. By August 11th, we're expected to have 1, 2, 3, 4 low pressures, probably 2 invests at that time, all coming from the same region of the southern areas of Mexico and just into the Pacific Ocean next to the Caribbean. So this is a very rare situation. As I said, that the last major hurricane to hit Hawaii was in 1992. If this thing hits while these volcanoes are going on, that is just bad news for Hawaii, especially for the smaller islands, because if this thing stays in the 960 pressure range, these smaller islands are even more at risk than the main island, and who knows what this could cause, because a lot of people have left parts of the main island to move inward to the smaller islands, and now with these storms coming, it could cause a lot of attention to shift back to Hawaii, where it should be anyway because of the volcano, but you know how the news works. We have short-term memory loss, and we just go with the next thing that's in the news. You could see that second storm here, actually the pressure lets up, allowing it to move north. Another perfect example of how these high pressures control these storms. And as you can see, as the high pressure adjusts, so do the storms. The storms always stay on the outside of the high pressure. That is the point here. So with that said, Tropical Storm Hector, already named Tropical Storm, is expected to get stronger. Could be a Category 3 to a Category 4 storm by the time it gets to Hawaii by August 8th. And then we have another storm behind it, which could potentially, if this follows this path, could potentially impact the Baja. If we get a little dip in the high pressure in this area, it could actually shift it towards California, which would be a whole nother story and a whole nother video at that. So let's take a look at this one more time from the closer version. This is Hector. Moving its way in, August 4th, it begins to enter the frame in the 970s, and then you see it fluctuate between the high 60s and the low 70s, and then we see it dive down to the 950s, Category 2 to 3 range, and then right there. Now, over the next couple days, this may change. This may go right over the island. It could go a little bit more south. The high pressure may release and allow it to go over the top of the island, but nonetheless, a very rare situation going on right now as we speak. Tropical Storm Hector beelining towards Hawaii with everything that they are currently already dealing with. Now, I know I'm already trailing onto a long video here, so we may as well just finish what we have to say. We are still dealing with a major jet stream dip, which is very rare this time of year. This dip is now gone into the Gulf of Mexico. As you can see here, all this moisture, this is current time right now, is pinned to the east states for two reasons, like we just spoke about. High pressure in the Atlantic, and then this dip here is a force field. It's almost like a wall, and it allows the central areas to be a high pressure. There were some major storms all over the United States today, which I will get into in another video. But just to show you what is about to come, you could see nothing is changing here. There's no change in the movement of all this moisture that is coming from now the Gulf, the Caribbean. Some of it's being pulled across Mexico and then into the Gulf and up. Anything that is moving from the south northward is going to be on the East Coast states, and this does not look like it's going to end anytime soon. There's no end in sight right now for this dip in the jet stream, so we may be dealing with a very, very soggy next couple weeks, which is causing rivers to flood. The Susquehanna River in Pennsylvania, I point that one out because I'm actually currently living in Pennsylvania, is at a very high level right now. That has overflowed before. There were some major historical floods in the 70s in Pennsylvania. The Hudson River is up in New York. Lots of creeks and river beds are overflowing, and this is just going to add to more of it. I was at work today, and I was working outside, and the ground is just completely saturated. You can't walk anywhere without it being muddy. Even with the sun coming out and everything like that, it's like a sponge. Any water that lands on land right now, basically in the eastern states, just settles on top. There's nowhere for it to go at this point, and we are just due for more. So you can see here, the stronger those storms are following this lightning line. This is a live lightning chart. I know I repeat that a lot, but for those of you that have not seen my videos before, this is a chart that shows you live lightning as it's happening right now. Every time you see these green lines, they are all pointing to different sensors in the United States that are recording these strikes. These are happening in real time right now as we speak. So you can see this perfect line going up the East Coast. And again, that is the crazy pressures going on, forcing all the moisture in the middle. You can see here again the point of interest to watch right now on the east side are these areas of the eastern states going all the way down to Georgia. Then we got South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Delaware, Pennsylvania. Every single East Coast state basically is just in saturation. Flash flood watch. All this green you see here rather, is all flash flood watch. That burgundy color you see is flash flood warning. A little bit more serious there because we have a pretty significant storm going on at the moment. You can also see this taking place with these water vapor charts. Now you can see all the cloud cover is still all over the east states, and you can see how this darkness is in the Atlantic Ocean. That's because there's no moisture there because of the high pressure. Any moisture that gets near it is pushed to one side or pushed to the other and wrapped around back towards Africa or up into the UK in the Ireland areas. And again, you could see these storms are finally making their way through the sandstorms that are coming from the west coast of Africa and making their way towards the Leeward Islands, and it's just a matter of time before these start to cling together and become a tropical, or an invest rather, and then a tropical depression, tropical storm, Category 1 hurricane. We are right there, guys. I'm telling you, it is. We are very close to being bombarded with storms in the Atlantic Ocean. And a lot of people don't think that's going to happen, but the data shows otherwise. I don't know if you guys remember when I showed you this chart a few days ago. Basically, this red blotch was here. None of this was here. So we can see the Atlantic Ocean is firing up. And I want you to notice it is starting to reach out towards, across the Atlantic Ocean towards the west coast of Africa. And we even spoke about this specifically. If you start seeing a red belt or even a pink belt moving in that direction, that is where those storms like Irma and Maria were able to form so quickly close to Africa and then have all that time to strengthen as they made it towards the Leeward Islands, and then just caused chaos in Puerto Rico, all over the Atlantic Ocean islands and the U.S. continent itself. So you could see a little better idea of how these storms are getting more and more severe. With the darker the purple colors and the reds, you could see those are storms, guys. These could easily become invests within the next 3 days. I know this chart said within the next 48 hours they're not expecting any, but they also said that about the Pacific Ocean a few days ago, and that changed dramatically. So, quick recap, we are dealing with a possibility of a major hurricane striking Hawaii. That is the main point of this video, so I'm going to cut it there before we go on too long. I like to rant sometimes. It's been a while since we spoke. But this is certainly something to be talking about, certainly something to be warning people about who are into weather. I know some of this information has been already released. I do work long work days, so it's hard for me to do these videos. Sometimes in the morning I just don't have the time, and sometimes at night it's just I'm too tired to you know, get the videos done when I need to get sleep for work. So I do what I can. But you could see them with your own eyes, guys. These are some pretty significant storms making their way towards Hawaii. So let's keep an eye out for it. Any updates I will bring to you as soon as possible. And it is 11 p.m. It'll more than likely be in the morning that you will see the next video. But if I'm feeling up for it, I will go in more depth about what's going on in the U.S. All right, guys. With that said, I hope everyone had a great Wednesday. We got over the mid part of the week, but just look at this. We're just not, it's non-stop and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So just expect this. On and off rain, severe storms, hail, just a very unique dip in the jet stream for this time of year at least. So, alright guys, that's enough for now. I will talk to you all very soon. Sorry for the delay. And that's it for now. Have a great night. Take care. Bye-bye.